Does Cam Robinson make the Minnesota Vikings a Super Bowl contender? It's a question that everybody's been asking. And it's not like Cam Robinson is better than Christian Darrisaw, but let's be real. He's going to be better than David Quessenberry. He's going to be better than Blake Brando. He's going to be better than Walter Rouse. And he gives the Vikings a real nice baseline on the offensive side of the football. You can also argue that it puts Kwesi Adofo-Mensah in Executive of the Year discussions with how he's maneuvered this team and opened that Super Bowl window 1 year early. So we're going to talk about all that. We're also going to talk about the Indianapolis Colts game on Sunday night and hopefully have a guest. We're not 100% sure yet, so we're not going to commit, but it's very possible. Welcome to the Real Forno Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Real Forno Show, hosted by the one and only Tyler Forness. A to Z Sports sought him out to be their Minnesota Vikings reporter and NFL analyst. And he's a proud contributor over at SKOL North's Purple Daily. Tyler is also the captivating host of The Good, The Bad, and The Hungry on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, and a founding member of Vikings First and SKOL.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Real Forno Show. I am your host, Tyler Forness. With me, as always, in the top left corner, he's producer Dave. Dave, yesterday felt like Christmas for you because the Vikings added a big round belly.
They did, and I thought it was a great move. I even said so this morning.
It was definitely an interesting move, and I had briefly mentioned it on Monday on the show, where I had said that I had talked to a very, very smart NFL analyst who has covered the Jaguars and is a big Jaguars fan. I asked him about Cam Robinson. I keep saying Greg. He was the second overall pick, I think, in 2009, and he flamed out of the league in like 3 years. But for some reason, my brain keeps thinking Greg. It's Cam Robinson. Hey, look at that, Dave.
Hey, we were having nice and clear.
Hey, you know what? We're going to take that, and we're going to take it back to the upper body tracking, and boom, we are all set, ready to go. Now, the one thing that they told me, take him, please. Not exactly a ringing vote of confidence for Robinson, who is on the final year of a 3-year, $51 million contract after a 1-year stint on the franchise tag. He's been with the Jacksonville Jaguars since they selected him at 34th overall in the 2017 NFL draft. And he is 6'6", 335 with 35.5-inch arms. He's got a lot of tools to work with. But the one big thing was that there just wasn't any form of consistency there. So was not the biggest fan immediately. I thought there were better options. Mainly, I really like the idea of DJ Humphries, who is slightly older than Cam Robinson. Was a first-round pick of the Arizona Cardinals in 2015, and he was coming off of a torn ACL. He's 100% healthy now. I thought he could have been a really nice addition. You give him like a prorated contract worth like $10 million. So you give him about $5 million, and all of a sudden you have somebody who could step in right away and play well. Well, they chose this route, and the compensation itself is interesting, Dave. This is the first time I've ever seen an expiring draft pick. Big Raylin Dad, I will promise you that is going to come as soon as I am done talking about the compensation. We're going to talk about it. Don't you worry. Thank you very much for the super chat, by the way. So the Vikings get a conditional 7th-round pick in 2026 or a conditional 5th-round pick in 2026 that can turn into a 4th. To my knowledge, if it turns into a 4th, the Vikings do not get the 7th-round pick. So either it's a 5th, 7th swap, or they give up a 4th. And all that's going to be based on playing time. What are the playing time thresholds? Could not tell you. I do not know. But this is a really, really good bet by the Minnesota Vikings to bring in a true starting caliber left tackle. And it better, arguably, I thought Humphries was a better option, but that's fine. You weren't going to get much better at this point in the season. Why? Dave, who the hell is trading a starting left tackle in October?
Right.
Nobody, except a team that has a guy in an expiring contract that they have no interest in retaining.
And they have somebody else that they're happy with filling the spot.
Mm-hmm. which is also interesting because Walker Little is a free agent after the year as well. So they haven't exactly planned this very well. Classic Trent Baalke, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm about to say it's the Jaguars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the interesting things that Big Real and Dad in that super chat brings up, the Jags did give the Vikings essentially $7 million. So basically, they're going to be paying Cam Robinson $7 million of his remaining $9.1-ish million salary. So they also have per game roster bonuses. So how those work, whenever you're active on game day, you get a roster bonus. So if it's $1 million in per game roster bonuses, it's prorated over the course of a 17-game season. Robinson has that. So it's around $58,000 per game that he will get if he's on the active roster.
Almost 59. Yeah.
Yep. So essentially, the Vikings are on the hook for about $2.6 million to rent a starting caliber left tackle for a year that they weren't expecting to compete, but they are competing. Dave, that's sheer brilliance.
Oh,
here's the thing.
There's even more.
Go ahead.
Because he becomes a free agent after this season, and we're all anticipating Christian Darrisaw being ready or real close to being ready, he'll go off into the free agent market. How much does a competent 29-year-old offensive tackle, and he'll still be 29 in the spring, garner in free agency? Left tackle. He's going to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And with getting paid, that means we also qualify for a comp pick in 2026. That comp pick could be as high as a third rounder. And yet, if he plays and does everything we want him to, we'll be giving the Jags our fifth. So this could be brilliant. We can come up, get the rental for next to nothing money-wise, and make out on it in 2026 with draft placement.
Yep, I was going to be getting to that here in a second. This puts Kwesi Adofo-Mensah firmly at the top of Executive of the Year. And here's why. You can argue, they're not getting much out of their draft picks this year. Who cares? Who gives a shit? It doesn't matter if you get anything out of your draft picks in year one. Well, you also have a kicker who is yet to miss a kick who you picked in the 6th round. Yeah, we can't ignore that. That's a hit. That's getting real production from your draft class. Dallas Turner only isn't playing because Andrew Van Ginkel's been a god. Like, we're not even talking about, hey, you just made a bunch of picks and none of them are doing anything. Yeah, a 7th round pick in Levi Drake Rodriguez hasn't suited up. Who cares? A 6th round pick in Walter Rouse hasn't suited up. Who cares? 7th round pick Michael Juergens has only played special teams. Who cares? Your 4th round pick passed away. Your 1st round pick quarterbacks looks like a hit. And guess what? Torn meniscus, out for the year. Dallas Turner's only not playing because of Andrew Van Ginkel. And when you look at all that, I don't care about that. But you know what I do care about? The fact that they completely fixed and flipped the edge room. They're one of the best pressure teams in the National Football League. The defense looked incredible for 5 weeks. And look, there were some warts over a couple weeks. Almost every great defense. Dave, the 1985 Bears gave out 38 points to Dan Marino. Like, everybody has warts. It's how you're going to bounce back from them. How are you going to grow, adapt, and evolve when people expose you on game day? Like, the Vikings weren't even supposed to be good this year. They weren't even supposed to be competitive. They went 5-0 before before the bye. Like, this, we're talking about an incredible job from Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, and he should firmly be right at the top of Executive of the Year. Who else are you going to give it to? Brad Holmes? What the hell did Brad Holmes do year over year in order to get this team in a better spot? He barely did anything. And that's the thing with the Executive of the Year. It's about what you did year over year. It's not a long-term thing. Brad Holmes is a great general manager, and he's done a phenomenal job in getting the Lions ready. But year over year, what has he done? He really didn't do anything over the course of the offseason in a major way to improve this football team. A lot of the guys that are playing, they're homegrown. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're talking about executive of the year, those are the conversations that you have to have. It's not we're retaining guys. Now, you can make the argument, he extended Amon-Ra St. Brown, extended Jared Goff, extended Aleem McNeil. Okay, I suppose you could go that direction, but I don't think that's good enough. I think you have to look at a team where they're exceeding expectations. They made a lot of moves to really impact the team. And I think that's where Kwesi Adofo-Mensah really separates himself. Really separates himself from the rest of the pack. And look, is Cam Robinson this elite left tackle? No. Does he have an elite skill set? Does he have an elite size athleticism profile? I think the answer is yes. His biggest issue is, Dave, consistency with pass sets. That's when I watch the film, that's what I found. Sometimes he'll underset and he'll get whipped to the outside, and then he'll overcompensate and overset, and then he'll get beat to the inside. And beating him inside feels like cracking the code. It feels like, hey, this is how you beat this guy. You beat him to the inside because he'll get too much weight moving to his outside foot and shoulder, and then you'll be able to spin and get him inside. Not everybody's going to be able to take advantage of that, but the really good edge rushers are going to be able to. And that is something where I think you can beat him. And that's the biggest work that I've found so far. Now, you can also argue, okay, he plays way too upright. So look, I'm 6'6". I'm basically Cam Robinson. I'm 6'6", 335. There's one big difference. I'm a terrible athlete and he's a great one. But when you are this tall and this large, it can be really difficult to get low. It can be really difficult to bend your knees and sink your butt and be able to get underneath some of these edge rushers that are only like 6'2". And they are playing a lot lower because of how they're rushing the passer. They're usually trying to get to the outside or put a move on. They're more often than not, they're not standing up. They're not standing upright. Cam Robinson stands really upright. Oh, sweet. Thank you. Mrs. Forno bringing me a nice Coca-Cola.
That was nice of her.
It was very nice of her. So when you're playing that upright, it can cause a bunch of issues. You can get forklifted. Like Garrett Bradbury, you know how he would get forklifted because guys would get underneath him and just jack him up like a sled? Well, you can get stood up that way. But the one thing that's interesting about Cam Robinson, and we'll kind of shift over to the positives here, he kind of makes it so that's not a problem. Like he'll get stood up, but then he has enough strength and anchor to be able to withstand that. So he puts his feet in the ground and you're standing him up and pushing him, but he's not letting you move him. He's got it's not leverage, but he's got enough strength in his lower half, enough sand in the pants. Remember, Bill Belichick talks about when he looks at linemen, he looks at butt. He checks out the butt, the lower half. Why? You need a lot of muscle in your butt and your legs because that's where you derive all your power. And he's got that. He's got the ability to get his feet into the ground and prevent you from moving him. I got a couple clips on my Twitter timeline. Go ahead and check those out at the Real Forno, either now or when you're done with the show, where it shows he's got this anchor and he's got this ability to just whip ass. He's not Christian Darrisaw, and nobody's going to ask him to be Darrisaw. Nobody's going to ask him to do all the things that Darrisaw does. But you know what, Dave? That's okay. He doesn't have to be. He just has to be a capable offensive lineman. Kevin O'Connell talked about how he needs to modify some of the approach and be more of a fast break offense. We talked about that on Monday, where they need to incorporate more quick game stuff to alleviate the pressure of the offensive line, because he was asking him to play at expert level. I don't think you can ask him to play expert level as much. And Robinson has a lot of good to him. He can climb to the second level. He can drive block. He can whip ass on occasion. He can handle stunts pretty well. He can flip his hips. He can drive with power. There's a lot of good to him. The biggest thing is consistency, especially in those pass sets. If you can get him off balance, if you can do those things as a defense, you can take advantage of him. but he can also whip your ass.
And he
can play left tackle. Yeah. Danielle Hunter, he did pretty well against. He did even better against his teammate, Will Anderson. He was whipping Will Anderson's ass so much. The people I was watching film with were like, is Will Anderson kind of a fraud? No, but that's like how much he was beating him and how he was just absolutely wrecking him. Now, Will Anderson, I don't think is a fraud. I think he's a very good football player and he's going to be good for a long time. But every once in a while, you'll have a performance from a guy and it's like, whoa. That's pretty impressive. It's pretty remarkable. And I'll tell you, I was not a fan initially, but I always try to keep an open mind because the film will tell you everything. Well, not everything, but you know what I mean. The film told me Cam Robinson, good football player, little inconsistent. You can get a little frustrated with him, but good. And I think, you know what? About best case scenario that we could have gotten at left tackle, considering all the parameters that we were working with. And you know what? A+ for Kwesi. A+.
I agree. Now, we don't know exactly where it puts us cap-wise, but I still think we're in good
shape. Projected to be slightly under $7 million.
Available.
Yep.
Okay. So there's still room for a big move if that opportunity presents itself.
Of course. And there's also the opportunity if you get something that presents itself, you can still restructure. Like the two contracts I looked at, Byron Murphy Jr., $8.4 million base salary. So take whatever that's left and prorate over 4 years. So he's got about $4 million left on it. You prorate that over his 4 void years, you can save about $3 million. Brian O'Neill, I believe he's at $14 million. So prorate 7, and then I think that's over 3. So you can save around $5 million with him. Like there are things you can do and things you can maneuver with. But you're only going to do that if you find the guy. Or you find somebody that you really like that you can sign long-term. 2 that I really like, you can sign long-term. Oso Digizua, defensive tackle from the Dallas Cowboys. Greg Newsome, the second cornerback, Cleveland Browns. Those are the 2 guys I would look at. Cleveland has some cap issues. They have a lot of cap right now, but
it's out of unlikely.
I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I'm going to say it's probably not. Same with Jeffrey Simmons. It's a probably not. But if you get one of those guys, you could theoretically sign them long-term after the season. And I think signing them long-term is a net positive. Why is it a net positive? Because you found a guy that you already have identified as a good NFL player and you believe they can continue to grow and become great. And you got them because like the whole point of draft picks is to be able to find guys and make them great, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you give up a draft pick, you're already getting a guy who's great. You don't have to worry about the other elements. Sure, we can have the conversation of, hey, they should be, we should be able to take advantage of the rookie contract. We should be able to do this, that, and the other thing. And that's great. But how many times do you have a guy on a rookie contract that just stinks? Sometimes it's okay to make the trade.
The majority of them, and depending on position, they usually take 2 or 3 years to develop, or 4, or 5, right? And if we get somebody like Sexy Dexy or Simmons, you're getting a proven quantity then, and it's worth that. And then he comes, you immediately extend them. They become part of the plan of JJ McCarthy over the next 4 years being on a rookie contract. And and they become part of that Super Bowl window plan. Now, I wouldn't get just a rental, and trade that sort of stuff that would need to be traded. But if you can find somebody like those guys, yes, I would.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I would love to have an impact defensive player added to this team. I would also like the idea of maybe adding like a receiver. I'm not bought in on Jalen Naylor anymore. I think he's fine, but is he like a next level player? Like, if the Vikings had the option to get Deontay Johnson as your wide receiver 3 for the stretch run, like, I would have done that trade 10 out of 10. I thought that would have been great. Like, elite separator, great in the slot. You can play him outside. Like, I think that could help put you over the top too, because you know what? Defense might win championships, but if you score, who cares? This defense already has shown the ability to be great when they're healthy. I think that once Blake Cashman returns, we're going to see the defense level out a little bit. I think it's going to be huge. But like a rental, I think a wide receiver rental would be great. If you can still find one. Defensive tackle and cornerback are the ones I'm looking at. And one of the big things with both those positions, if you fix one of them, the other one is less important. Here's what I mean by less important. If you have great pressure, you don't need great coverage all the time because they're going to have the pressure taken off of them. Their jobs are going to be made easier. And if they're bad in coverage, it's going to show up significantly less. Those things matter. And vice versa. If your coverage is great and the pass rush takes a minute to get there, it balances out. So fix one of them. I don't care which one. I would prefer defensive line because you're already getting edge rush pressure. But if you get a good defensive tackle, makes you more multiple.
Yes.
The quickest path to the quarterback is straight ahead. Like, if you can get one, get one. Get one. Cause and effects is don't say Thielen. Look, I think Thielen would be a good addition to this team.
Depending on price.
Yeah, if it's like a 6th, 7th pick swap, something like that, I think that's a good price.
No, I mean, I'm talking Thielen, contract. He's making wide receiver 1 money. No,
he's not. His base salary this year is $4 million. You're gonna give him like less than $2 million. That's nothing. His contract was 3 years, $25 million. Like, he's not making much money. And guess what? You can cut him after the year for no penalty. None. He's got no guarantees left. So this could be a 1-year rental. And next year, I think his total cap hit, if he gets all of his per game roster bonuses and stuff, is like $6.75 million. That's palatable. And you can easily restructure that and be like, hey, we're not going to give you this, but we want to keep you at $3 million. I pay $3 million for a veteran wide receiver 3. And that's what Thielen is. He's a power slot wide receiver 3 who can get open in short areas. And I think that's valuable for a team like this. And he can help mentor. He already knows the building and knows the plays. You'd be able to step in, be like, hey, give me a crash course. Okay, cool. Let's go. And that's it. He doesn't need to get acclimated to everything. He probably still owns his house out here. Like there's levels to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is he going to be the guy that we remember in 2020? Hell no. But he's going to be fine. Like, I like the idea. I'm not going to be like, I'm going to tell you we should do it and we should do everything we can to make it happen. But if it happens, I think it could work. Cause and Effect also asked about Brandon Cooks. I think Cooks is cooked. And I don't think he's very good anymore. He's got the weirdest career of all time. The dude has gotten traded for first round picks, 2 or 3 times? It's bonkers. He's been traded like 4 times. It's like teams want to have him for like 2 or 3 years and then they get rid of him. But they're all good. He's good with all of them. It's just, he's got such a weird trajectory overall. But yeah, I would stay away from Cooks. Like, the trade deadline is going to be so fascinating because if Vikings can find a way to lure Jeffrey Simmons, like if the Titans get their butts whipped this weekend, maybe they change and maybe like, hey, the Vikings come out, be like, hey, first this year, third in 2024 or 2026. Let's do it. Maybe they get it done. I don't know. I'm spitballing here. Here's the thing with trade value. We think we know, but we don't. And it's the weirdest thing, right? I can tell you what I think a guy is worth. But there's so many factors that we just don't have privileged access to. And here's why. So much about player trades, it matters about supply and demand. Multiple teams trying to get a player drives the price up. If it's just one team, that's how you get a low off. That's how you get a guy for nothing. Antonio Brown was arguably the best receiver in the National Football League when the Steelers traded him to the Raiders. Why'd he go for a third and a fifth? Who wanted to deal with him? The Raiders are always willing to take that risk. Always.
For better or for worse.
Yeah. And you know what? It helped make them make a Super Bowl in 2002 because they took that chance with so many of these guys.
Heck, all the way back to 76.
Mm-hmm. But that's the thing. We just don't know. Because we don't, like, guys will go, like Mohamed Sanu went for a second round pick to the Patriots back in 2014, 2016, somewhere in there. It's like, really? A second? Mohamed Sanu stunk with the Patriots, but they gave up a second for him. Supply and demand really matters in these discussions where we think we're going to be able to nail the compensation. We just don't know. So it's just something to kind of put in the back of your mind. We don't really know what the compensation is going to be. We can guess. Daniel, could we trade 5 whiskey sours for big nose tackle? Look, if it's made with Weller Antique, which is a bottle I've been trying to find for years. Yep.
I just bought one.
That reminds me.
Today, 1857. It's distilled in Texas here. And I asked the guy at the liquor store, have you ever tried this? He goes, no, it's new. I said, so I got it. I haven't tried it. I haven't opened it. Didn't get time before the show started.
Yeah, we're going to blame Odie for that one, right, Odie? Yeah, he's sleeping right next to me like a really good boy. Let's kind of talk about this Colts team. I want to talk about Anthony Richardson for a second.
Whoa. Before we get into the Colts, you had me right about the trade for Cam Robinson, and does it make the Vikings Super Bowl bound?
I kind of already answered that. I think it keeps them on a path to make the playoffs and potentially make the Super Bowl. I think it levels them out. Left tackle isn't a big flaw, and I think that's big. They can't rely on him like Darrisaw. But if you want to make a run, you had to fix the position in some way. And I think this is about as good of a Band-Aid as you're ever going to find. So, yeah, I already answered that. I think you can level this out, and you can still make that run.
And
Kamara is an absolute no. He just signed an extension in New Orleans.
Right. And when it comes to the NFC, it's pretty much real wide open. There's only one dominant team, and we only lost to them by 2 points. So
I don't like they're dominant against bad teams, but how many good teams have they played? They're going to get a wake-up call when they play the Packers because that's a team that's also really good. The Rams
bad teams.
That Lions team barely beat a Rams team that lost like 3 offensive linemen and their star receiver Puka Nacua in the first half, and they were up 21-3 and they barely won. Like, we're not talking about a team that's like been consistent against really good teams. They hadn't beaten a team with a winning record until they faced the Vikings. So I'm not saying that the Lions aren't the best team in football, but the Lions are a good football team. They are a very good football team.
But
I want to see them against more teams that are great before I make that opinion.
And if the Vikings continue to win games and get in the playoffs, they've got just as good a chance. They started out against good teams, beating good teams. Yes, they've slipped up the last 2 weeks, but we still have a chance to represent the NFC.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we absolutely do. You want to hear a funny stat, Dave? Derrick Henry in high school had 1,397 carries for 12,000 yards and 153 touchdowns. I think he was starting as an 8th grader because he's just a He's such an anomaly in every possible way.
Freedom Thinkers brought up a couple times. Do we think the Vikings would extend Robinson for a year, assuming Darrisaw misses some of the games next season?
I don't think so. I think maybe they'll improve swing tackle to get a better swing tackle than David Questenberry. Maybe Walter Rouse ends up being that guy after a year in the system. I don't think there's any chance that they would extend Cam Robinson, because you're basically like, I can understand the idea from Freedom Thinker here, because if he misses like 2 or 3 games, it'd be great to have Robinson for those 2 or 3 games. Are you paying that guy $17-18 million a year for 3 games? You just can't do that in the salary cap era. If this was the Premier League, yeah, you probably do it. But we just won't have the flexibility to do so. And I think they may improve it. Maybe they spend like $5 million on a swing tackle, which is a lot of money for a swing. Maybe like a Mekhi Becton, where you have like there's high variance, of course, because you're paying him $5 million. There's always going to be high variance when you have that kind of guy. But then you have that high variance upside as well. I think maybe that's the route you go, because I just don't see that being plausible with the salary cap the way it is. Plus, I think the Vikings, like you mentioned earlier, Dave, want to potentially get that comp pick. The Ravens did a 5th, 6th round pick swap with the Panthers. That could be 5 to 10 picks to get Deontay Johnson. 5 to 10. And guess what? They're not going to re-sign him. You know what that's going to mean, Dave? They're going to get a 4th, 5th, or 6th round comp pick back for Deontay Johnson. They're going to basically get a free pick for a rental and lose, 5 to 10 spots in the order? That's insane. That's how great teams do business. And I think this is what the Vikings are trying to do here. But I want to talk about Richardson for a minute, because the whole process is kind of frustrating me. To me, this screams the benching. It's coming from ownership, which is incredibly frustrating for one main reason. When you drafted him, you knew what you were getting. You had to put him on the Josh Allen development plan. Now, Josh Allen today was not Josh Allen his first 2 years. They're completely different players. Allen his first 2 years was incredibly volatile, missing throws left and right, inaccurate beyond reason. But he had
talked
some
about
throws
him not being able to hit the broadside of a barn.
Mm-hmm. But whoa, when he hits something, it's like, that's freaky. Like, just special arm ability. And that's what Richardson has. He has that type of ability. But you knew in order to extract that, Dave, you had to give him a lot of time. You had to be patient. You had to wait it out. And you had to give him a lot of reps, because he only started 13 games in college, played across 21 of them, 455 attempts in college. It's not a lot. It's not many at all. You had to give him time. You had to let him play through mistakes. When you drafted him, you knew that was going to be the case. And he kind of got screwed this offseason because he spent so much of it rehabbing his shoulder. Like, he didn't get to do a lot of the footwork stuff. He didn't get to do a lot of the things to really grow from year 1 to year 2 because he was rehabbing. So now you have a guy who has 10 total starts in the NFL, and you're benching him. To me, like, just the whole vibe says ownership got impatient. Because when you watch the All-22, look, Richardson has his flaws. I'm not going to tell you he's perfect. He's far from it. He's better than the stats will tell you. He went 10 of 32, partially because of himself, and his receivers stunk. They didn't help him at all. He had a couple throws that should have been touchdowns that weren't brought in. He had multiple throws on like the intermediate level of the field that hit hands. Like, it's bad. When he gets set and comfortable, he can throw a missile. He can throw it accurately. The problem is getting that consistently. Daniel says he needs to sit for a couple years. I can understand sitting for a little bit and really drilling that footwork and drilling it to oblivion and drilling it. Kind of like what the Vikings did with JJ McCarthy this offseason. They wanted him to have certain footwork, so they drilled it to oblivion. But he needs in-game reps. He needs the live action. And it's what prompted me to write that I think the NFL needs a minor league system. Expand the practice squads to 40. And each team can have a minor league team. Play games on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And guess what? Now you have like a full team of guys that you can continue growing and developing. Hockey has a minor league. Basketball is a minor league. Each MLB team has 5 to 6 minor league teams. Why doesn't the NFL have something like that? You can get Hall of Famers from these leagues. Kurt Warner came from NFL Europe. The 2 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks came from NFL Europe and a runner-up in the Super Bowl. Jake Delhomme being the runner-up, Brad Johnson and Kurt Warner being the Super Bowl winners. Like you can find these guys. They're going to be rare and few and far between, but you have to develop. And the NFL isn't doing enough to develop these guys. So, get a minor league. Daniel also says, I think in 2 years, Richardson could be good. Yeah, that's the idea. The idea is for him to be good in year 3 and year 4, but you have to give him the runway to get there. And the fact that the Colts are being this impatient is incredibly frustrating. They should already be on the way, and they're stunting that growth and development. Now, will it stay that way? I don't know. But the ambiguity from Shane Steichen, the whole team seems to be behind Richardson. Like they believe he's going to start again. And captains and stuff. That speaks some volumes. I don't know. To me, this just stinks of ownership meddling. And Dave, I hate it.
And not that hasn't happened with the Colts before.
Nope. Not at all. I mean, it's not like Jim Irsay has been caught doing something he shouldn't have been.
Question. Do they activate Darrisaw and replace Ingram this week?
No, I don't know if they'll activate Reisner, but I don't think they're gonna replace Ingram.
Yeah.
Ingram was good against the Rams. Ingram was good against the Lions. Honestly, I don't think anybody can convince me that Reisner is better than Ed Ingram. And I think Ed Ingram gets unfairly graded by Pro Football Focus. I don't agree with their grades at all, especially when it comes to Reisner. And we've had Ingram. We've had that discussion. So I'm not going to relitigate and keep telling you guys everything that you've already heard me say before. I also don't think that Reisner's first game back is probably going to be starting. I think maybe they'll rotate him in a series or two. Maybe they'll just get him in special teams. But he's not better than Ingram. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings. But he's not.
Well, because why I asked Chaos, he said he's ready to go this week.
He was ready to go last week. He didn't play.
Yeah. And it's just whether they make the determination to activate him.
My guess is no.
I would have to look at the roster. Are we full up again at 90 or are we at 89? Or whatever the number is. 50.
53. 53. Yeah, we're at 53.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Otherwise, biggest thing with the Colts is these wide receivers are it's like a bunch of 2s and 3s. They don't have an alpha. Their tight end situation is not good. What they do have is Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, good football player. Very good football player. The offense kind of runs through Taylor. And he's going to be able to do a lot of different things for you. With Joe Flacco, you're going to have the quick passing game. Are they going to be throwing it down the field as much? And if they are, can you get to him? I think you can. And I don't necessarily trust the Colts run defense. I would run Aaron Jones a lot in this game. A lot. But there is something to be said about like Joe Flacco doesn't necessarily make this team better. It certainly makes them different. There's going to be less opportunities for explosives. Because the one thing Richardson was great at, deep ball accuracy. Very good at throwing the deep ball. Very, very good. It's one of the things that made him such a weird evaluation because he couldn't throw a 5-yard slant. He could throw a 60-yard post and be accurate with it almost every time. How does that make any sense? And that's why, hey, I can coach you to throw a 5-yard slant. I can't coach you to throw that kind of bomb and be that good at it. That's a God-given gift. Like, I still think Richardson could be really good. I don't think the offense is suited for him. There's no easy buttons. You got to have easy buttons for young quarterbacks. They're not doing that enough. But we'll find out. We'll find out. I'm really intrigued for this game. I think the Vikings are going to find a way to pull out a win. I haven't quite got a score down yet, but there's a lot of really good from this football team. And I don't trust the Colts. I just don't.
21-14, something like that.
And I think the Vikings might put up more points because they're going to be able to run the ball. You can run against this Colts defense. And then that's where you get to play action. And they run a lot of cover 3, so you're going to probably send guys like Hawkinson up the seam a lot. Seams are going to be open in this defense. They're going to be open. Any chance we would trade for Pittman? No, I don't think so. Evil 2 up asks why I'm so in love with Ingram. Ingram is trash. No, here's the thing. I don't even love Ed Ingram. If you replace him after the season and you get like a Trey Smith, I'm all for it. If you find somebody who's actually better, sure. Like, I'm not attached to him. What my opinion is I'm fighting the narrative that he's bad because it's just not true. He has flaws. He has warts. But people don't understand how well he's playing in the running game and how he's a much better pass protector than somebody like Pro Football Focus is going to tell you. That's my thing. People are wrong about how bad he is. And I'm not afraid to tell you. That's my thing. Jeremy asks, are we going to use Dallas Turner more in this game? Maybe. I don't know. They want to use him, but Van Ginkel's just playing well, so he's not getting reps. That's okay. It's not a big deal. People are making it a big deal. Doesn't have to be.
And B-Flow talked about he's developing, or he's on schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Here's the thing with rookies, especially when you have a guy like Jared Verse who's playing very well for the Rams. Development isn't linear. It's not as if, and this is where situation matters so much. They needed a guy like Verse to play like that, and he's playing like that. The Vikings can afford to be like, hey, Turner, we're just going to play you sometimes, and we're going to get you in advantageous situations so you're not going to get bullied and like lose your confidence. They don't have to play him because Van Ginkel's playing so well. They don't want him to put him in the Pat Jones and Jihad Ward role because that's not his game. His game is to play like Andrew Van Ginkel. So I'm not worried at all. I'd like to see him more too. I also don't think it's a big deal that we're not. Like, that's fine. The defense overall is playing well. Like, if you look at the overall scope of the defense, not just the last 2 weeks, they're fine. It's okay. Not having Turner is fine. Nothing to worry about, nothing to panic over. He's gonna be good. I trust this coaching staff to make that happen. Anthony asks, why can't Turner get reps in place of Jones? Jones is playing more of an interior role. He's crashing in stunts. So when you have stunts, you have two guys, okay? This guy crashes up against like the offensive lineman. So then this guy loops around. Dallas Turner is the looper. He's not a crasher. He like Pat Jones weighs like 265 and is got a lot of muscle. So you're not asking Turner to be that crasher right now. You're asking him to be the looper. So that's why I would not put Turner in Jones's role. Let's see. Let's get a couple more questions. Curly says the fact that Ingram has allowed the most sacks of any guard this year is a bit more objective than a PFF pass grade. Here's my problem with PFF. Like, remember that stunt against the Cleveland Browns that he allowed?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they didn't credit him with that. They don't credit the right player oftentimes on stunts. And how many of those sacks that Ingram allowed were after like 5 or 6 seconds? I don't care at that point. If it's 5 or 6 seconds, that's on the quarterback. That's 100% on the quarterback. And that's the thing. They're asking these guys to play in hard mode. They are 8th best in the NFL in pass block win rate, which measures blocks held over, 2.5 seconds. They're asking these guys to play an expert level. And they're doing a good job of it. Not all pressures are created equal. Not all sacks are created equal. This is why I always say, watch the film. Watch it not because you should be better than me. Watch it not because like any other reason. Watch it so you can better yourself, so you can understand the context better. Because offensive line play is not something you can really gain a ton from watching the broadcast. You gotta watch the L22. You gotta watch it. And it's gonna tell you a lot. Ingram has his flaws, but the game against the Jets, I calculated 2, maybe 3 pressures. They gave him 5. That's where the differences lie. Like, I don't think he's great. I think he's at best an average guard, and I think that's good enough for this team. His cap hits less than $2 million. Average is good. That's okay. But we've had so many talks about Ingram. I don't want to keep rehashing it. But it's not because I love him. It's because I think other people are wrong. Do we have any more questions, Dave? Or should we pack her up?
I think we should pack her up.
All right. We're going to likely have Scolders and Spice later this week. We had a vet
tomorrow
appointment that postponed the Tuesday show. But you know what? That's okay. That's what we do for rescues. We make sure that they're okay. Odie agrees. He's got a rescue brother and a rescue sister that unfortunately passed away. So we take care of those around here. There will also be 2 old bloggers this upcoming Saturday afternoon. Darren is looking to make his second consecutive 2 old bloggers appearance. We're really proud of him. And then, of course, Sunday night after the game, we will be live talking Vikings and Colts. Mm-hmm. And that is our show. I'm going to have a long film-related piece on Cam Robinson dropping tomorrow morning for A to Z Sports. I recommend you check that out. And we also had a longer form discussion on the Minnesota Vikings and Indianapolis Colts on Scorner's Meat and Potatoes from Purple Daily, which I do with Judd Zolgad every week. I recommend you check that out. In the meantime, like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you know when we're going to go live. Because you don't want to miss it.
A reason to watch 2 old bloggers is Darren nailed the Cam Robinson trade. He predicted they'd go after him. So just say it. Also tomorrow, if you're into Who Will Be King, our NFC North Roundup show, we are inviting a couple of Packers fans to join us. It'll be over on the Bleachers to Speakers YouTube page, our Detroit Lions page. They're hosting for the week. I've got it next week. But if you want some good NFC North talk, and granted, there's going to be some ribbing of pay for his Chicago Bears and what they did and how they lost. Join us tomorrow at 4 over on Bleachers to Speakers.
Like, subscribe, ring the bell, comment. Tell me what your favorite Halloween candy is in the comments. Not the live comments. Once the show's done, tell me what your favorite Halloween candy is. I want to know. And I'll tell you mine next week. I'm Tyler. He's Dave. SKOL Vikings, everybody.
SKOL Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications. It helps us grow this community that we all love, our Minnesota Vikings. And on behalf of Tyler Forness and myself, Dave Stefano, thank you so dearly for watching, The Real Forno Show. SKOL, everyone!